yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong.
Time tax in action. And I'm about to make some road noise about it. This actually isn't too bad right here. Going south. This is very uncommon from what we've been having lately. However, this side over here is definitely more common. And this is just a part of it. So we have a major interstate that's under construction all the time in this town. Whether it's the interstate that goes all around our city, the interstate that goes across our city, or the interstate that goes from south to north in our city. So it's somewhat problematic only because as long as I've lived here, which has been since the beginning of the 90s, this has been taking place. And I want to take a second to talk about the time tax and what the time tax is. It's construction and traffic related. It's how construction takes time from you, such as your rest, time with others, or time for yourself, right? And the way it does this is by there being construction and traffic constantly on primary, secondary, and tertiary roads, which is the real problem here. It's not just that they put one road under construction, it's that they put most of the roads under construction. And these are big roads, right? And it's not just the highways, it's not just the interstate and the small highways, it's also our streets. And I'll get some more footage of that as well. It's the streets to and from your work. It's the streets to and from your kids' schools. It's the streets that you need to use to go shopping. And so what ends up happening is you sit in traffic all the time and you're breathing everyone's exhaust. It costs you gas, right? And that's an expense that you have to account for is I'm sitting in traffic, I'm not going anywhere. I'm losing time. I'm late to places. I have to call and let people know. So I want to say that this video is definitely a rant of sorts. However, I have some problem-solving ideas at the end of it. It's not just, oh, Zachary's upset about all this traffic and he doesn't propose that we're going to do anything about it. It's not like that at all. See, I mean, these are folks just sitting here. Yeah, it's rush hour, but this happens at 1 o'clock in the afternoon too. and this is just the interstate. This isn't our primary or our secondary and tertiary roads, which they also put under construction. And this is just road construction. It doesn't include things like utility work. It doesn't include all the things that they've blocked off for residential construction, commercial construction, upgrades and renovations to buildings. It's a fairly large city. And here's another thing. On our secondary roads, we have all of these semis that are now coming down roads that are not rated for semis. So during the process of all this construction, the secondary and tertiary roads are being further devastated by equipment that's too heavy for them. So I think that's a real concern. And now I'm going to step away from the road noise a little bit, and hopefully you can still hear me. This isn't a criticism of the personnel who handle all this. It's just that I think there is a lot of mismanagement. I think that the construction lobby is powerful. I think that the way things are done is a project is granted, there's not enough restrictions on it. For example, they're not going to finish it in any reasonable amount of time. It never seems to end. And they continue to put more and more under construction without finishing what they've already started. So those are some of the costs, I believe, and it's cost to taxpayer. It's cost to you as a citizen in terms of what's your budget of time and gas and peace of mind. It's cost to the environment. All this traffic, people just sitting in traffic, burning gas, breathing each other's carbon monoxide, it's going into the air. This is a real issue, okay? And I also don't mean to belabor it at the expense of, this is a first world problem, okay? Not to mention what's going on in the rest of the world, or to lessen the importance of any of that stuff, because it's really important to me as well. So you might say, well, Zachary, why are you bitching about traffic and road construction and these kinds of things in the midst of everything that's going on, or the Supreme Court decision, which is also very important to me, okay? I'm not taking away from any of that. I'm just not talking about it right now. It's still important to me. Those issues are very important to me. However, I think this is something that is kind of affecting everyone in a lot of ways, and it's exacerbating some of the problems that we're already having in our society. And it's increasing things like road rage as well, okay? Or you think about people's health conditions. You think about people who, not to be blunt, but people who need to go to the bathroom, people who need to eat. They need to pick up their children. They need to go home and relax. And they can't do that because of this time tax. And the time tax truly is just construction on roads and how it is affecting our lives, right? So I talked about some of that stuff already. And the other major problem is, okay, so they complete something, right? Awesome. We have better roads. Sure. The problem with that is, here at least, once it's completed, they have to come back within 6 months to a year later to work on it again. So the same road that took years to complete is now being repaired again. It is now closed, limited, these kinds of things, in order to repair that road that they didn't fix the first time. And like I said, we have a freeze-thaw cycle here that's the worst in the country. What that means is the soil is always moving. And every time it freezes and every time it thaws, we have the contraction and expansion of the soil. We also have a clay-based soil. So for you geology geeks out there, it's kind of like, oh, okay, I get it. I understand why your roads are so bad, right? But what are the proposed solutions? This is a complicated issue. So it requires massive movement at bureaucratic levels, but it also takes some action from the citizenry and people to get engaged and say, hey, let's propose legislation. I will propose legislation. We only work on primary roads this year. This year, maybe we only work on secondary roads. We work on tertiary roads the next time. We limit the road construction on federal interstates that are federally funded to 5-mile stretches at a time. And you cannot move to the next section until that section is completed. Okay? So That's one thing we could try. The other thing is management in terms of the city is change the lights to correspond with everything that you've blocked off. Put personnel on secondary and tertiary roads in order to be able to handle the traffic flow at various times of day. Budget for these things, right? The budget will increase, and that's a real problem when we're talking about administration is, oh, well, we don't have the funds in order to do this. We need to make that happen. And I understand too that COVID created a lot of problems.
Okay, last time I was talking about COVID and the impact that COVID has had on the construction industry. So I'm sure it made a lot of people ill. I'm sure a lot of people did not get vaccinated, and I'm sure it had some impact on some families there. So I don't want to make it sound like there aren't legitimate reasons that construction could have slowed down during this time. However, the city that I live in has had a long-term problem with never-ending construction, which is poorly managed. The side routes are not managed at all. You're given very little notice about what's going to be taking place with construction. Sometimes it's last minute, other times it's just you're driving down a road that you think is open, and then all of a sudden it's shut down. So it's really a big problem here, and I think that some of the solutions to it are that we should have some legislation, we should have city ordinances, we should have state laws, we should have federal laws that regulate the construction industry more heavily, and or the construction industry itself should be more self-regulating so that it doesn't have as much of an impact on the environment through emissions. It doesn't have as much of an impact on families. It doesn't have as much of an impact on workforce. It doesn't have as much of an impact on the cost of fuel, because with gas hovering around $5 a gallon right now, where are we burning the majority of it? Well, in this town, we're burning it sitting in traffic. And that is sitting in traffic even when it's not rush hour. So I came to some secondary and tertiary roads here to show you an example of this. And the area that I'm about to show you now has been under construction for about 1.5 years. They haven't finished it. They continue to add more pieces to it, and they continue to block off more and more streets as they're doing this. So hopefully they'll be concluding this within the next 6 months or so, as well as some of the major interstates here that they said would be done in June are still not done. You can leave the city and find construction. So if you're traveling on the interstate out of the city, you'll be stopped on the road there for construction. So, you know, it's just really frustrating, and I would like to see something done about it, and I'm proposing something be done about it. Now, whether or not that's feasible or not remains to be seen. But I'd love to hear some of your ideas about it. And hey, if you work in the construction industry, especially on roads and infrastructure, or you're building buildings and you have some insight as to why this is taking place, I welcome that. So I really appreciate it. And I'll just finish out this video here with showing you some of these road blockages. Hope to see you again next time on Practically Social. Okay, and I figured out my exposure compensation is way off on some of this, so I do apologize for that. But I wanted to give you an idea as well on the secondary and tertiary roads of the kind of stuff that we're experiencing here.
This road has been under construction for over 6 months as well. They stripped it down and they've just left it this way. So a lot of the roads are causing accidents. And in addition to that, if I can show you the road surface here, and that's all the way down. And then we have this problem here, which is all of the dust that's created. So dust covers everything from the buildings to the cars. We breathe it in. And with the road surfaces, the problem that we end up with is destruction of vehicles. So you could drive quickly through here or you could drive slowly. And you have to drive slowly because it's tearing up your suspension. It may damage your body work on your car. So I see that as another real concern of this endless road construction, infrastructure improvement that has no reins on it. So I really appreciate you taking the time to think about this and help strategize solutions for it. I know it's not the most pressing problem in the world, and it may seem like a petty gripe about something. However, I do think it's affecting a lot of people, taking away their time, taking away their energy, and sort of sucking at their soul.
Keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Keeps you up at night, yeah.